Yeah, because people don't like it when beautiful women exist without having to pay for it in some way. And so this is another epiphany that I had. This is where the concept of putting women through humiliation rituals comes from as well. And it's so sick to the point where, like, okay, the idea that women are basically, they are expected to, and people are almost feral for women. The more beautiful they are, the more desirable they are perceived to be. People are like foaming at the mouth, essentially, to see those women suffer at the altar of either marriage, so they want to see her devoted to one man to prove that she's loyal and that she's not a hoe, she's not a slut, prove that she's not a gold digger, right? So she can't even marry like a rich man. She has to marry, if she marries a man that's like middle of the road, well-to-do, it's acceptable. But then they would prefer her to marry like a Dusty or a 50-50 guy that she's providing for, right? The more suffering, the more of the depletion of resources that they can obviously see, the more society likes that. And like the more society is going to look upon that beautiful woman favorably. It's really, really sick. And so that's why whatever situation we're talking about, whatever scale, whether it's you're talking about a local school in a small town and we're talking about, the homecoming queen or the prettiest girl in that town, or whether we're talking about a huge industry like Hollywood or just a regular, Fortune 500 company employee, a corporate baddie, so to speak. It doesn't matter which arena you find yourself in as a beautiful woman. There will be forces that try to pull you into the reenactment of this humiliation ritual script that is agreed upon for quote unquote beautiful and desired women in society. And it's so ingrained in us. Like our culture is so deeply misogynistic to the point where you will have people oftentimes when you get put into these situations where you're like, is this a humiliation ritual? Am I being hazed? Like, why are they doing this to me? Because usually like, okay, when it goes really left, sometimes it ends up in the woman even losing her life, right? So in those cases, it's automatically like, oh, she was such a victim. She lit up every room that she walked into, right? That's how they're going to read the description of her at the eulogy or funeral. But then in most cases, it's like, okay, they'll do a little bit of a humiliation ritual or a hazing period for you. And if you pass that without putting up a fight, if you bow down and kowtow to their game, in most cases, like if you just do that long enough to where you can appease this bloodlust that people in society have for seeing beautiful women suffer, they'll let you go after a certain point, right? And like, it's just the concept is so ingrained in us and in our society to the point where you have your peers or sometimes like your senpais, the people that are trying to position themselves as your mentors. They will take it upon themselves to humiliate you themselves because in their minds, they think they're doing you a favor because they're like, okay, well, if I don't do this to you now, then somebody else or some other group is going to haze you in the future anyway. And it's going to be like 8 or 10 times worse when they do it. So I might as well do it for you as a favor. And it's so sick because they think they're doing you a favor. But what they're really doing is like, they're just traumatizing you. And then you kind of develop this, in a lot of cases, right? Not me, okay? Because I don't even play those reindeer games. Like, I will just leave. I am a leaver and a quitter. I literally left, you guys know the story. Last year when I was working at my previous job, it was at a different luxury brand that I'm at, a different luxury brand from the one that I'm working at right now. But the moment that I caught on to all of the power harassment going on with my direct manager, I literally was like, nope. I went to a clinic and I told them, hey, write me a note, tell them that they are causing me severe psychological distress and that I need to stay home essentially for the next 90 days, which was the exact amount of time that I needed for my contract to run out, which means that once I had that note, I had the ability to claim not my full earnings, but I was able to claim a majority of the percentage of my salary without going into work because I had that doctor's note. So don't try it with me. I'm not the one or the two. But what happens in most cases, especially when the woman is still young, is that they'll develop this like trauma bond essentially, or not trauma bond. What's the word I'm looking for? Not Munchausen's syndrome. It's like when people grow to love and defend their captors or their abusers. Stockholm syndrome. Oh my God. Yeah. So you basically like a lot of so-called mentorship that goes on in companies and different clubs and groups. Sororities and fraternities are a good example of this too, where they feel like, okay, we need to put all the new rushes through a hazing process in order to trauma bond them with each other. They don't call it trauma bonding because they word it in a way where they justify it by saying that, well, if you go through a set of adverse circumstances with this group of people, then it's going to create like a deeper bond than if you were just casually interacting with each other. So like that's their justification for putting you through a hazing or a humiliation ritual. But at the end of the day, what happens is that, like in most organizations, in Japanese culture, this is very strong as well. It's basically just Stockholm syndrome that's happening in a lot of these mentor/mentee relationships. And especially if you're a beautiful, desirable woman, a lot of them will think that they're actually doing you a favor because they're like, well, it's better me than your peers or, another group that doesn't have as good intentions for you. Like, it's better that I traumatize you first. In a way, it's like you understand that this is their thought process. And if you're young enough, you might, you look up to your elders naturally as a younger person. You want to look up to them. You want to believe that they have more wisdom for you and that they're actually looking out for you. So it's like you believe them, but then at the same time, it's actually Stockholm syndrome because they literally traumatized you. But then you also gaslight, they don't even have to do the gaslighting. You will gaslight yourself for them. You will convince yourself that what they did was actually kind or actually in your best interest. You will convince yourself that, yeah, well, I prefer that it was my senpai or my mentor that put me through the humiliation ritual first. And this is where you have like people, again, gaslighting themselves and deluding themselves into believing that, oh, my manager, they basically power harassed me the whole time that I was a new hire. But, I really appreciate that they put me through the ringer because, it toughened me up really quickly so that I could progress in the role quicker, et cetera, et cetera. Like you have a lot of people that still they think this way and they buy into it.
So actually a lot of celebrity women or women who are in the public eye, they will actually go as far as to orchestrate or stage their own humiliation ritual just so that they can have control over their story. It's kind of like a performance. So for example, in the clip you're seeing right now, this was at the height of Jennifer Lawrence's popularity, and this is a clip of her tripping up the stairs when she was going to accept her Oscar at the 2013 Oscar Awards. Now, I'm not saying that I have proof that she did this on purpose or anything. Anderson Cooper, I remember, certainly seemed to think so at the time, and he kind of called her out on his talk show for faking the fall, to which she doubled down and responded that no, it was a real fall and that she was actually so humiliated, this, that, and the third.
And it was so devastating because it was this horrific humiliation to me that like took away, like, I don't know if I'll ever have a chance to give a speech like that again. Like that didn't feel good for me not to have a speech. And I'll tell you what, I saw him at a Christmas party and I let him know. My friend told me that a vein was bulging out of my neck, but he apologized.
I don't know. You guys be the judge. I mean, I have to be honest with you. I tend to side with Anderson Cooper's interpretation of events. This is no hate, no shade towards Jennifer Lawrence, but it's just that I know how the game is played. So yeah, but even in that voice clip, you can see she was emphasizing how humiliated and how hurt she was, how much of an honor it was. She was just shocked to be called on stage and all of that. Like, this is the performance that beautiful, successful, well-to-do women are expected to give in the public eye. You're supposed to be just tripping over yourself with humility and graciousness. It's almost like they're under threat. In a way, they are. It's like, you better put on this humble performance or else we could take away your accolades at any time. But this is just an example of one of many, whether staged or not, so-called humiliation rituals that I wouldn't be surprised are actually pitched to and created for stars, like famous women, by their PR teams in order for them to, control their public narrative. And if you look at Jennifer Lawrence's kind of public persona during that whole time, she was really enjoying a huge surge in popularity due to her relatable image, right? And I say image on purpose because we don't actually know who these stars are or how they are behind closed doors, but it's all about what image they can successfully portray to the public and convince the public of. Now, me personally, I never really fell for the okie doke, but that's another story. By the way, just to be clear, I do think that Anderson Cooper was being an asshat in that scenario, because it's like she's damned if she does and she's damned if she doesn't. So what the hell is your problem, dude? Like, let's see you get up there in a strapless ball gown and accept an award. Oh wait, you can't because you were never nominated. So sit down, Anderson Cooper. Just to clear that up, I'm not taking up for Anderson Cooper here. And for those of you who follow Japanese pop culture, around the same year actually, 2013, Minami Minegishi, who was an original member of the popular idol group AKB48, was caught by the paparazzi, or it was found out that she had spent the night with her boyfriend. So if you don't know, in idol culture here in Japan, they're not supposed to have boyfriends or personal relationships because they have to feed into and uphold the fantasy for a lot of their basically pervy older male fan base that the fans want to be able to imagine themselves being in a romantic relationship with the idol. So that's why they actually have, this is a legitimate rule that a lot of talent agencies have, that their idols are not allowed to have boyfriends. And so in order to, again, lessen her punishment in the public eye, to at least mitigate it, she took it upon herself to shave her head as an act of like self-humiliation, which of course then had the positive effect, if you can call it that, of the fans, you know, defending her and saying that, no, this is too far. I feel so bad for her. She doesn't have to do all that. Idols should be allowed to have relationships and enjoy their private lives just like anybody else. But this is how you know all the fans of these people ain't shit either. Idol culture ain't shit and the fans ain't shit. And I wouldn't care if all of it went to hell tomorrow. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry for that little outburst. I'm gonna try to keep it professional here. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, this idol culture, especially in Asia, like the parasitic, it's not even parasocial. I call it parasitic, sick, twisted, PDF pandering idol culture. It can go to hell for all those reasons and then some. But anyway, the point is that by shaving her own head publicly and taking it upon herself to orchestrate her own punishment and humiliation, that lessened, you know, the backlash. Because imagine if she didn't do that, if she just like went about her days after the scandal with her head held high, then the tide would have turned against her very quickly. And those very people that claim to love her and be her number one supporters, her number one fans, they would have had no hesitation in berating her and, you know, basically like bullying her into submission, administering their own version of whatever version of punishment that they felt was appropriate for her situation. But in order to avoid exactly that, she got ahead of the situation and shaved her head herself, you know, which was obviously, like, I'm not gonna put the video or anything here, but as mentally distressing as that must have been for her, it was a better scenario than leaving it up to the public to decide what her humiliation should have been for that particular transgression in their eyes of having a boyfriend secretly on the side. So yeah, it's not just these huge, grand, you know, newsworthy stories that we hear of. Most female celebrities or most beautiful women in the public eye are always performing some form of humility or like self-deprecation on some scale, whether large or small, as a way to signal their non-threatening nature to society at large, whether it be women or men, literally all the time. In any culture, any entertainment scene across the world, whether they are pushed by their management to do so, or they themselves just intrinsically are following their intuition to do so for self-protection and preservation. Attractive female celebrities are always doing some version of virtue signaling, but as it pertains to, like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like humility signaling or awkward signaling, as opposed to virtue signaling. Like, they are constantly having to assert and prove to the public, just in regular interviews and whatnot, that they are just as clumsy or as insecure as other girls, even though they might be, never mind that they're a whole ass Victoria's Secret model. Like, they're constantly expected to put on this performance of humility. And I think, actually, I know that it's because of this expectation foisted upon women by the patriarchy, okay, by the beauty economics matrix, that the more perceived beauty, the more perceived privilege you have, the more people feel threatened by you for whatever reason, the more you have to almost, like, a lot of women, they live in fear of feeling like they have to put out that fire before it gets too big by constantly, you know, self-deprecating or proving how down to earth they are, proving how much they're just like every other girl with insecurities and whatnot.
Well, you know what I like as a comfort food, and I heard you like it too. Is it true that you're a mac and cheese girl? As if I couldn't love you anymore.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Cheers. I love you so much. I am
It's like you would think that any woman in the first or fourth quadrant would have it made because they were born winning the genetic lottery. But again, the walls of this matrix, the walls of the patriarchy, do not allow any woman to fully bask in the glory of just how beautiful and how much of a goddess she is. There's always something that the patriarchy or agents of the patriarchy, which often includes other women with internalized misogyny mindsets, right? There's always going to be some force sent to tear you down. And beautiful women are very, very aware of this, are constantly trying to, keep these forces at bay before they're destroyed by them.